Derek watched the holographic display flicker to life in the center of the council chamber. 847 years of human loyalty were about to mean absolutely nothing. He could see it in the way Salmoth's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. The Kryn delegate had asked for this emergency session with unusual urgency. Now Derek understood why. The chamber fell silent as Salmoth's voice echoed through the vast space. The Kryn Empire moves to enact Cleansing Protocol 77. Derek felt his blood turn cold. He knew that protocol. Every species in the galaxy knew it. It meant total annexation, complete erasure of the target species from galactic records. Salmoth continued without pause. All human colonies outside the Sol system will be reclaimed for proper resource management. Earth itself has been selected as a breeding world for Kryn expansion. The human species will be relocated to designated labor sectors. Derek stood slowly. His hands remained steady despite the rage building in his chest. We have served the Kryn Empire for over 8 centuries. His voice carried clearly across the chamber. Human soldiers died in your border wars. Human engineers built half the stations in this sector. Human diplomats negotiated peace treaties that saved millions of Kryn lives. Salmoth's laugh was like glass breaking. Yes, you served well like good tools should, but tools can be replaced, and your usefulness has ended. The council has reviewed our proposal. They found it acceptable. The display changed, showing voting results. 47 species had voted in favor, 0 against. Derek scanned the faces of delegates he had worked with for decades. The Trell representative who had asked for human help during the plague of 791. The Harmon ambassador whose daughter Derek had saved from a station failure. The Voss counselor who had praised human innovation just last month. All of them avoided his eyes. All of them had voted yes. Derek's mind raced through everything humanity had given the galaxy. They had shared medical advances that doubled lifespans for 6 different species. They had designed engines that made deep space travel possible for races that could never afford Kryn technology. They had mediated conflicts and prevented wars, and this was their reward. How long? Derek asked quietly, his voice cutting through Salmoth's triumphant speech. How long for what, Salmoth? Sneered. How long do we have to evacuate non-combatants? The Kryn delegate's smile widened. The standard 30 days would be customary, but I think 30 hours will suffice. After all, you won't need much time. Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Species that had begged for human assistance now found their extinction hilarious. Derek pulled out his personal communicator. The small device looked insignificant, but every human in the galaxy carried one. He typed a simple message, 2 words that would change everything. Protocol Midnight. His finger hovered over the send button for just a moment. 8 centuries of trying to fit in. 8 centuries of being the helpful junior species. 8 centuries of believing that if they just proved themselves enough, they would be accepted. He pressed send. Ambassador Derek. Salmoth's voice dripped with false concern. Are you calling home to beg your leaders for help? There is no help coming. The Kryn Third Fleet is already moving toward Sol. 2,000 ships against your pitiful defense force. It will be over before your message even arrives. Derek looked up at the Kryn delegate, then at all the other species who had betrayed them. His face showed no emotion, no fear, no anger, nothing but cold acceptance. I wasn't calling for help, he said calmly. I was sending confirmation. Salmoth frowned. Confirmation of what? That you've made your choice. Derek began walking toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. For 800 years, we prepared for this day. We hoped it would never come. We built our society on the belief that cooperation was possible, that trust could be earned. He stopped at the doorway and looked back. But we also remembered where we came from, what our ancestors learned about survival, about what happens when you trust the wrong people. The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. Salmoth's expression shifted from triumph to uncertainty. What are you talking about? Human. Your species has no secrets from us. We know everything about your capabilities, your weapons, your fleets. We've monitored you for centuries. Derek smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant smile. Yes, you monitored exactly what we wanted you to monitor. He turned to leave. "You taught us how the galaxy works, how the strong devour the weak, how loyalty means nothing, how trust is. A weapon used against the foolish." He paused in the doorway. "Thank you for the education. We learned well." "Guards," Salmoth shouted, "detain him." But Derek was already gone, moving through the corridors of Harmony's Gate Station with purpose. Behind him, alarms began to sound. Ahead of him, the docking bay where his ship waited. He could hear Salmoth screaming orders, could hear the confused shouts of other delegates. None of it mattered now. His communicator buzzed. A response from Earth, just one word, confirmed, across human space on every colony, every station, every hidden facility that the galaxy knew nothing about. Protocol Midnight was activating. The illusion was ending. Humanity was done pretending to be harmless. Derek reached his ship and sealed the airlock behind him. Through the viewport, he could see Kryn security forces rushing toward the docking bay. Too late. His engines were already powered up. In 30 seconds, he would be clear of the station. In 30 hours, the galaxy would learn what humanity had really been doing for 8 centuries. As his ship launched into the darkness, Derek thought about all the human soldiers who had died fighting Kryn wars, all the scientists whose inventions had been stolen and claimed by others, all the diplomats who had smiled and bowed and pretended not to notice the contempt in alien eyes. They had not died for nothing. They had bought time, time to prepare, time to build, time to become something the galaxy would never forget. His communicator lit up with status reports from across human space. Every message the same. Weapons online, fleets ready, defensive positions secured. 800 years of secrets were about to become the galaxy's nightmare. Salmoth had given them 30 hours. Humanity would only need 3. Admiral Torvin studied the holographic display showing the Sol system with satisfaction. 2,000 Kryn warships spread across the formation like a cloud of death. The Third Fleet had crushed rebellions on 17 worlds, conquered 43 systems, destroyed countless enemies. Primitive humanity would fall in hours, perhaps minutes. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting unusual readings from Mars orbit." Torvin barely glanced at the data. Unusual how? The civilian mining stations are activating power systems. Massive power systems, nothing like what civilian operations should have. They're probably trying to evacuate. Torvin dismissed the concern. "Focus on identifying their military vessels. I want this over quickly." The fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, passing the massive ice giant without incident. Uranus came next. Still nothing but silence from humanity. Torvin frowned. Where was their famous defense fleet? The ships they paraded at every diplomatic function. Surely they would try to defend their home. "Admiral," the tactical officer's voice held a note of confusion. "I'm reading weapons signatures from the asteroid belt. Hundreds of them, but they don't match any known human designs." "Show me," Torvin commanded. The display zoomed in on the belt between Mars and Jupiter. What he had assumed were simple mining operations now lit up with active targeting systems. Massive rail gun batteries that had been disguised as ore processors. Missile platforms hidden inside hollowed asteroids. Energy weapons that made Kryn technology look primitive. "That's impossible," Torvin breathed. "Our intelligence said humans barely had faster-than-light capability." "Sir, Mars is lighting up." The sensor officer's hands flew across his console. "Those aren't civilian stations, they're military installations. Planet-side installations are coming online too. I'm reading weapons signatures from Earth's moon, from orbital platforms we classified as research stations, from cargo ships that just deployed battle armor." Torvin's confidence began to crack. How long have they been building this? The answer came not from his crew, but from the communication system, a human voice, calm and cold. "For 847 years, Admiral. We started the day we joined the galactic community. We watched how you treated other species, how you used them and discarded them. We knew our turn would come eventually." "Identify yourself," Torvin demanded. "Admiral Patricia of the Earth Defense Fleet. You're about to learn why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars. We came from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, whether other humans. We learned to prepare, to plan, to never stop fighting. You're in our home now, and we protect what's ours." The display exploded with new contacts. Human warships emerging from behind Luna, from the shadow of Earth, from positions that should have been impossible to hide. Torven counted 50, then 100, then stopped counting. The ships were bigger than his flagship, covered in weapons that his sensors couldn't fully analyze. "Open fire," he ordered. All ships full barrage overwhelmed their defenses. 2,000 ships launched their weapons simultaneously, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Missiles and energy beams filled the space between the fleets. Torven watched the display, waiting for the moment when human ships began to die. The moment never came. Human point defense systems created a wall of intercepting fire. Every missile was destroyed before reaching its target. Every energy beam was deflected by shields that shouldn't exist. Not one human ship took damage. Torven's jaw dropped. His fleet had fired enough ordnance to destroy a moon, and humanity had stopped it all. "Return fire," Patricia's voice came through again. "I want you to understand something. Admiral, every war you fought, every conflict you dragged us into, every battle where you spent human lives like currency. We were learning, studying your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. You taught us how to kill you." The human fleet fired, not a massive barrage but precise, calculated strikes. Beams of energy that cut through Kryn's shields like they were made of paper. Missiles that moved faster than anything in Torven's arsenal. Projectiles launched from those rail guns in the asteroid belt, traveling at a fraction of light speed, turning Kryn warships into expanding clouds of debris. "Evasive maneuvers," Torven screamed, but his ships were too close together, too confident in their numerical advantage. Human fire found target after target in the first 30 seconds. He lost 300 ships in the next minute, 500 more. His tactical officer was shouting numbers, casualty reports, damage assessments. None of it made sense. How could humanity have this kind of power? His intelligence had said they were barely capable of defending their own system. They were supposed to be weak, helpless, easy prey. "All ships fall back to Neptune," Torven ordered. "Regroup and reassess." "Sir, the human ships are moving," the sensor officer reported. "They're not pursuing, they're just adjusting position, forming a wall between us and Earth." Patricia's voice came through once more. "You're wondering how we did this, how we hid it from you. It's simple, really. We showed you exactly what you expected to see. Weak ships, outdated technology, grateful junior partners. You never looked deeper, never questioned why we were so eager to help, so willing to share our research, so interested in your military operations." Torven watched as his fleet completed its retreat. He had started with 2,000 ships. He now had less than 1,200, and they hadn't destroyed a single human vessel, not one. "This was a trap," he whispered. "No," Patricia corrected. "This was preparation. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength, that treaties mean nothing, that loyalty is weakness. We learned those lessons well. Every human colony you're planning to destroy, they all have defenses like this. Every station you think is civilian, they're all armed. Every ship you've seen in our merchant fleet, they're all combat capable. We built an empire while pretending to be servants." "The Council will send more fleets," Torven tried to sound confident. "You can't fight the entire galaxy." "Watch us," Patricia replied. "You wanted to cleanse human space, to take everything we built. Congratulations, you've started a war you can't win. Send word to the Council. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity is done bowing, done serving, done pretending. We're coming for every species that voted for our extermination." New contacts appeared on Torven's display, more human ships emerging from jump points around his fleet. They had been waiting, hidden, ready. His fleet was surrounded. "This is your chance to leave," Patricia said. "Take your remaining ships, go back to the Council, deliver our message. If you choose to stay and fight, none of you will survive. Choose now." Torven looked at his remaining ships, at the human forces surrounding them, at the display showing Earth, beautiful and blue and deadly. He had come here expecting an easy victory, expecting to add another conquest to his record. Instead, he had walked into humanity's carefully prepared response to 8 centuries of exploitation. "All ships," he said quietly, "prepare for jump, we're leaving." His communications officer looked shocked. "Sir, we can't just retreat." "We already lost," Torvin said, watching the human fleet maintain position. "We just don't know how badly yet, but the Council needs to know humanity isn't what we thought they never were." As his fleet jumped away, Torvin took one last look at Saul. System at the weapons humanity had hidden for centuries, at the power they had built while everyone dismissed them as harmless. He had seen humanity's future, and it terrified him. The emergency council session had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from 47 species shouted over each other, trying to make sense of what happened at Saul. Salmoth stood in the center, his earlier confidence gone, replaced by barely concealed panic. "The humans destroyed 800 ships," a Trell delegate protested. "Your intelligence said they had no military capability." "They hid it," Salmoth snapped back. "Somehow they hid an entire fleet, weapons we've never seen, technology that shouldn't exist." The Harmon ambassador leaned forward. "Then we send more ships, the Grand Alliance fleet. Every species contributes vessels. We crush them with overwhelming numbers." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Fear was turning into anger. Humanity had embarrassed them, shown weakness in the galactic order. That could not stand. The vote passed unanimously. 47 species would contribute to the largest military fleet ever assembled. 15,000 warships to end the human threat permanently. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Patricia received the intelligence report. Her agents embedded in various alien governments for centuries had forwarded every detail of the Council's plans. Ship counts, fleet composition, rally points, attack vectors. Humanity knew everything. She stood before the holographic display showing her senior commanders. "They're forming the Grand Alliance fleet," she said without preamble. 15,000 ships. They plan to hit us in 3 months when assembly is complete." "We barely survived 2,000 Kryn vessels," one commander protested. "How do we face 15,000? Patricia's smile was cold. "We don't wait for them to come to us." She expanded the display to show the entire galactic sector. "We have 3 months before they're ready. In that time, we're going to do something the Council thinks is impossible. We're going to hit every species that voted for our extermination, simultaneously." The room fell silent. Another commander spoke up. "That's 47 different species, spread across hundreds of systems. We don't have enough ships." "We don't need to occupy their worlds," Patricia explained. "We just need to cripple their military capability. Destroy their orbital defenses, their shipyards, their fleet bases, make it impossible for them to contribute to the Grand Alliance. The message needs to be clear. Voting for genocide has consequences." She pulled up detailed plans. Humanity had been mapping every military installation in the galaxy for centuries. They knew where every species kept their fleets, where their defenses were strongest, where they were vulnerable. "We split into 47 task forces. Each one targets a specific species. We use the new jump drives to appear without warning, strike hard, strike fast, and disappear before reinforcements arrive." "What about civilian casualties?" someone asked. "Zero," Patricia said firmly. "We target only military infrastructure. We're not them. We don't murder innocents, but we will defend ourselves, and we will make sure every species understands what it means to threaten humanity." 2 weeks later, the operation began. On the Trell homeworld, orbital defense platforms exploded in perfect synchronization. Human ships materialized from nowhere, their weapons tearing through military satellites and fleet anchorages. Trell commanders scrambled to respond, but human forces were already gone, jumping away before defensive weapons could lock on. The Harmon shipyards burned. Massive construction facilities that had been building warships for the Grand Alliance turned into wreckage. Human strike teams knew exactly where to hit, where the structures were weakest, where the explosions would cascade through entire complexes. Across the galaxy, 47 species watched their military capabilities vanish in a single coordinated strike. The Voss fleet base, gone, the Kellen defense grid destroyed. The Prith manufacturing centers reduced to debris fields everywhere humanity struck. They left nothing but burning wreckage and terrified survivors. The Council reconvened in chaos. The Grand Alliance fleet that was supposed to gather in 3 months would never form. Most species had lost half their military capacity in hours. Some had lost everything. How is this possible? The Voss counselor demanded. We never saw them coming. Our sensors detected nothing until they were already firing. Salmoth had no answers. His intelligence network had been completely blind to human movements. They have some kind of stealth technology, jump drives that bypass normal detection. We don't know how they developed it. As you weren't looking, a new voice cut through the chamber. The display flickered and Patricia's face appeared. Human tech had hacked into the Council's secure communication system. You spent centuries watching us, but you only saw what you wanted to see, weak, harmless humans grateful for the chance to serve. You never noticed when our merchant ships scanned your military bases, when our diplomats asked questions about your defenses, when our scientists studied your technology for vulnerabilities. This is an act of war, the Harmon ambassador shouted. Patricia laughed. No, ambassador, war is what you declared when you voted to exterminate us. This is just us responding. We gave you peace for 800 years. We gave you loyalty, cooperation, friendship, and you repaid us with genocide, so now you get to learn what humanity is really capable of. The display changed, showing footage from each of the 47 strikes, precision attacks that destroyed military targets while leaving civilian infrastructure untouched. We could have killed billions, Patricia continued. We could have cracked your planets, poisoned your atmospheres, made you extinct, but we're not monsters, we're not you, we're just done being victims. Salmoth found his voice. What do you want, human? Surrender terms, reparations. We want you to remember. Patricia's expression hardened. Remember what happens when you vote for genocide. Remember that humanity will defend itself. Remember that we're not going away, not disappearing, not dying quietly from this day forward. The galaxy operates under new rules. And what rules are those? The Trell delegate asked quietly. Simple ones, Patricia replied. Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. Threaten us and we'll remove the threat. Attack us and we'll destroy you. It's not complicated. It's not unreasonable. It's just survival. We learned it from you. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia had just been humbled by the race they dismissed as primitive. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone in that chamber knew it. On board Patricia's flagship, her second-in-command approached. Admiral, we're receiving messages from several species. They want to negotiate separate peace treaties, distance themselves from the Kryn and the Council decision. Patricia nodded. Let them come, we'll talk, but on our terms now in our space, at our stations. She looked out at the stars, at the galaxy that had tried to destroy her species. They wanted to take everything. Instead, they gave us a reason to claim everything. Sometimes the best gift your enemy can give you is proof that cooperation was never an option. Her ships began jumping back to human space. The operation complete. 47 military powers reduced to shadows of their former strength. The Grand Alliance dead before it could form, and humanity standing alone, stronger than ever, ready for whatever came next. General Richard walked through the ruins of what had been the largest Kryn military academy in the sector. Human forces had occupied it 3 weeks ago, not with violence but with simple presence. The Kryn government had no choice but to accept. Their fleet was scattered, their defenses broken, their empire fragmenting into civil war as regional governors fought over the scraps. 6 months had passed since humanity's coordinated strikes. The galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Trade routes that had operated for millennia lay dormant. Species that had trusted the Council's protection now scrambled to defend themselves. Chaos spread across previously stable sectors, and everywhere, humanity waited, watching, maintaining a presence at key strategic points. Richard's communicator buzzed. another species requesting human protection, the fifth one this week. Tell them the same thing we told the others, he said to his aide. Disarm their offensive weapons, accept human military oversight, agree to technology sharing, then we'll discuss security arrangements. Sir, the aide hesitated. Some of our own people are saying we're becoming the thing we fought against, that we're building an empire. Richard stopped walking. An empire takes without asking, conquers without reason, rules without consent. He gestured at the academy, at the Kryn soldiers who were being retrained as local security forces. We're not taking their worlds, we're not claiming their resources, we're just making sure they can never vote for genocide again. There's a difference. A Kryn officer approached, one of the few who had chosen cooperation over resistance. General, we've received reports of attacks on human supply convoys, 3 in the past week. Admiral Salrith is claiming responsibility. He's calling it liberation. From human tyranny. Richard studied the reports. Salrith had been a rising star in the Kryn military before the collapse. Now he led a resistance movement from hidden bases, broadcasting messages about human oppression, about the need to fight back against the new order. Some species were listening. Do we know where he's operating from? Intelligence suggests a facility in the Broken Edge sector, the officer replied. Heavily fortified, supplied by species who secretly support the resistance. If you want, we can organize a strike, eliminate the threat. No, Richard said thoughtfully. I have a better idea. He opened his communicator, connecting to Patricia. Admiral, I need access to the original council recordings, the ones from the day they voted for our extermination, all of them, including the private discussions before the vote. Patricia's voice came through, planning to broadcast them. The resistance thinks we're tyrants, Richard explained. They think we're just replacing one oppressor with another. Time to show them who the real oppressors were and what they had planned for everyone else. 2 days later, the galaxy's communication networks lit up with humanity's broadcast. Not propaganda, not claims, just raw footage from the council chambers. Salmoth's voice explaining the cleansing protocol, other species enthusiastically supporting it. The Trell delegate suggesting they use human colony populations as forced labor before termination. The Harmon ambassador proposing they claim human children as experimental subjects. But the most damaging footage came from the private pre-vote discussions, conversations the council members thought were secure, the Kryn military brass discussing which species would be next after humanity, the Voss leadership debating whether to target the Kellen or the Prith first. The entire council structure revealed as a predatory system where strong species devoured weak ones. Humanity had just been the next meal. The broadcast included detailed plans found in Kryn archives, species marked for future cleansing, resources allocated for their extermination, timelines for systematic conquest of the entire sector. The council hadn't been a governing body. It had been a hunting party, and humanity's crime had been becoming successful enough to be worth eating. Reaction across the galaxy was immediate. The resistance crumbled as species saw what the council had really planned for them. Salrith's messages about liberation rang hollow when everyone could see that the system he wanted to restore had been preparing their extinctions too. Support for the resistance evaporated. Funding dried up. Hidden bases found themselves suddenly exposed as former allies turned over locations to human forces. Richard received a message on an encrypted channel. It was Salrith, requesting a meeting, offering surrender. Should we accept? His aide asked. Set it up, Richard replied. But on our terms, neutral location, full security, I want to hear what he has to say. The meeting took place on a small station in neutral space. Salrith arrived in a civilian transport. No guards, no weapons, just a former admiral who looked decades older than his years. Richard met him in a simple conference room. No ceremony, no formality. You could have killed me 100 times, Salrith said without preamble. You knew where I was, you had the forces, why didn't you? Because dead martyrs inspire more resistance than living failures, Richard replied. And because I wanted you to see the truth. Your entire system was built on lies, the council you want to restore, the order you're fighting to preserve. It was never about cooperation or mutual benefit. It was about predation. Humanity just exposed it. Salrith sat heavily. I watched the broadcasts, saw the private discussions. They were planning to take Kryn territories to reduce us to subject status. He looked up at Richard. I spent 40 years serving that system, believing in it, and it was all a lie. Yes, Richard said simply. Now you have a choice, keep fighting for a lie or help us build something better. Why would you trust me? Salrith asked. I led attacks against your forces, killed human soldiers, broadcast propaganda against you. Because you believed you were fighting for freedom. Richard leaned forward. You were wrong, but you believed it. That kind of conviction is rare. We can use people who believe in something, even if they have to learn what to believe in. He pulled up a holographic display. We're establishing a new framework, not an empire, not a council, something different. Species maintain their sovereignty but accept human military protection. In exchange, they disarm offensive weapons, stop building conquest fleets. Agree to dispute resolution through negotiation instead of war. And if they refuse, Salrith challenged, then they're on their own, Richard shrugged. No protection, no trade agreements, no access to human technology. Most species are choosing cooperation. The ones who aren't, well, they're learning that independence means actually being able to defend yourself. You want me to help implement this, Salrith understood, to convince Kryn leadership to accept. More than that, Richard said. We need people who understand how the old system worked, who can identify the corruption, root out the same patterns before they take hold again. You know where the bodies are buried, metaphorically and literally. Help us make sure this new order actually works. Salrith was quiet for a long moment. The Kryn Empire voted to exterminate you. I supported that vote, and you're offering me a chance to help rebuild. We're offering you a chance to do something that matters, Richard corrected. To help build a galaxy where species don't have to fear extinction for being successful, where cooperation isn't just a mask for predation, where the strong protect the weak instead of devouring them. He stood. Think about it, take your time, but understand that with or without you, this is happening. Humanity claimed everything because you forced us to. Now we're going to make it work. As Salrith left, Richard watched the former admiral's ship depart. His aide approached. Do you really think he'll help us? He already is, Richard replied. His surrender, his public acknowledgement that the resistance was wrong, that's worth more than any military victory. The galaxy needs to see that even our enemies can recognize the truth. He turned back to his work, to the endless stream of requests, negotiations, disputes that needed resolution. They wanted to destroy us. Instead, they gave us responsibility for the entire sector. Sometimes I wonder if we won or just inherited their mess. 2 years after the betrayal, Derek stood in what had once been the council chambers on Harmony's Gate Station. The room looked different now. The elevated platforms where delegates had looked down on humanity were gone, replaced with a simple circular arrangement where all parties met as equals. Species came to Earth now to negotiate. They came asking rather than demanding. They came as partners rather than masters. The title on his door read Galactic Coordinator, a position that didn't exist before humanity rewrote the rules. His job was simple in theory: facilitate cooperation between species, resolve disputes, maintain the security framework that kept the sector stable. In practice, it meant managing the aftermath of a complete power shift, navigating relationships with species that had voted for human extinction, building trust where none had existed. His assistant entered. Ambassador Salmoth has arrived, she said quietly. He's requesting a private audience. Derek felt old anger stir in his chest. Salmoth, the Kryn delegate who had announced the cleansing protocol with such satisfaction, who had laughed at humanity's impending death, who had given them 30 hours to evacuate. Show him in. Salmoth entered slowly, no longer wearing the elaborate robes of a council delegate, just simple civilian clothes. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like exhaustion. Ambassador Derek, he began, then stopped. No, that's not right anymore. Coordinator Derek, thank you for seeing me. I wasn't sure I would. Derek admitted. Part of me wanted to refuse, let you wait, make you feel as powerless as you tried to make us. I wouldn't blame you, Salmoth said, sitting without being invited. A breach of protocol he seemed too tired to care about. I came to beg. The Kryn home system is under human blockade, has been for 18 months. Our people are starving. Our economy is collapsed. I'm here to ask for mercy we never would have given you. Derek studied the former delegate, seeing the weight of 2 years of defeat. Why should I help you? He asked bluntly. You voted to exterminate my species. You found our extinction amusing. You gave us 30 hours before you planned to kill billions. Give me one reason why humanity shouldn't let the Kryn Empire fade into history. Because you're better than we were, Salmoth met his eyes. Because you could have destroyed us, cracked our planet, poisoned our atmosphere, made us extinct as revenge, and you didn't. Because despite everything we did, you still operate under principles we abandoned centuries ago, because mercy is the strength we never had. Pretty words, Derek said. But words cost nothing. What are you actually offering? Salmoth pulled out a data drive. Everything, he said simply. Every secret, every hidden facility, every piece of corruption in the old council system. I've spent 2 years documenting how it really worked, how species were selected for cleansing, how resources were divided, how the entire structure was built on exploitation. He placed the drive on the table. I'll testify publicly about what we did, what we planned. I'll help establish accountability, make sure everyone knows the truth. Derek picked up the drive. This doesn't buy forgiveness. I know, Salmoth nodded. Forgiveness isn't what I'm asking for. I'm asking for my people to have a future, even if I don't deserve one. Even if every Kryn who voted for your extermination spends the rest of their lives working to make amends. We need our children to survive. We need our species to continue, and that's entirely in your hands now. Derek was quiet for a long moment, remembering the council chamber, remembering Salmoth's satisfied smile, remembering the votes that condemned humanity. The blockade lifts, he said finally. But not for free. Kryn accepts human oversight of all military production, agrees to reparations to be paid over 50 years, opens all government facilities to human inspection, and you personally lead the truth and reconciliation process. Show the galaxy exactly how the council operated. Done, Salmoth said immediately. All of it, whatever you require. Why, Derek asked. Why are you really doing this? Is it just survival? Salmoth looked at his hands. I watched the broadcast General Richard released, saw the private discussions, learned that we were on the list too, that after humanity, the council planned to cleanse the Kryn, take our territories, reduce us to labor forces. He laughed bitterly. I spent my life serving a system that was preparing to destroy us. I voted to exterminate you, and 6 months later they would have done the same to us. I helped build a nightmare. The least I can do is help tear it down. Derek stood, walking to the window that looked out over the station. The galaxy is different now, he said. Species that ruled for millennia are learning to cooperate instead of conquer. The strong are protecting the weak because it's required, not optional. Trade routes are reopening under human security. Disputes are being resolved through negotiation. It's not perfect, but it's better than what existed before. Better than what we would have built, Salmoth agreed. We never wanted this. Derek turned back to face him. We didn't want to dominate the galaxy, to dictate terms, to be the ultimate authority. We wanted to be partners, equals, contributors to a cooperative system. He gestured at the empty chamber. But you taught us that cooperation was weakness. That trust was suicide, that the only way to survive was to have enough power that no one could threaten us. So you claimed everything, Salmoth said quietly. Because you forced us to, Derek replied. Because letting anyone else hold power meant trusting they wouldn't use it against us again, and that trust was already betrayed. He sat down across from Salmoth. Do you understand what you did that day? When you announced the cleansing protocol, you didn't just threaten humanity. You proved that the entire galactic order was built on lies, that 8 centuries of loyalty meant nothing. That cooperation was just a masked predator's war until they were ready to strike. I destroyed the galaxy I thought I was protecting, Salmoth nodded. I see that now. Derek activated his communicator. Lift the blockade on the Kryn home system, he ordered. Implement Phase 1 of the Rehabilitation Protocol. Ambassador Salmoth will be working with our Truth Commission. He closed the connection and looked at the former delegate. This doesn't make us friends. I know. This doesn't erase what you did. I know. But maybe it prevents it from happening again. Derek stood. The galaxy operates under new rules now. Species maintain sovereignty but accept oversight. Everyone has a voice but no one has veto power. The strong protect the weak because that's the price of stability. He walked Salmoth to the door. We claimed everything because you left us no choice. Now we're going to make it work, even if we have to drag the galaxy kicking and screaming into a better future. As Salmoth left, Derek returned to the window, watching ships come and go from the station, species from across the sector arriving to negotiate, to trade, to cooperate under humanity's framework. It wasn't the partnership they had wanted. It wasn't the equal system they had hoped for, but it was stable. It was safe. It was a galaxy where voting for genocide had consequences. His communicator buzzed with another request, another species wanting human protection, another dispute needing resolution. Another day of managing the empire they never wanted but couldn't refuse. He thought about the young diplomat who had stood in this chamber 2 years ago, who had watched his species condemned, who had sent the message that changed everything. Protocol Midnight had been about survival, about revealing the weapons humanity had hidden for centuries, about showing the galaxy that humans could defend themselves. But it had also been about something more fundamental. It had been about refusing to die quietly, refusing to accept that might makes right, refusing to let betrayal go unanswered. They had claimed everything, not through conquest but through necessity, not through ambition but through the fundamental requirement of survival. The galaxy had given humanity a choice: submit to extermination or become strong enough that no one could threaten them again. The choice had been easy. Derek smiled slightly, remembering Salmoth's laugh when he had given humanity 30 hours, remembering the certainty in the Kryn delegate's voice that human extinction was inevitable, remembering all the species who had voted yes with such casual cruelty. They had learned, the entire galaxy had learned, what happens when you underestimate humanity, what happens when you betray the species that came from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill them. What happens when you turn cooperation into warfare? A single betrayal had changed everything, and in changing everything, humanity had claimed it all.